Hello, everybody. Welcome to Zeros on Heroes, Collateral Benefit. Hi, my name is Mike Mercadal. With me, as always, is
Will Watkins.
Hello, Will Watkins. It's Sunday. You know what that means? We're starting a week off right with a little collateral benefit, recognizing that we want to start the week off focusing on our mind, body, and community, how we are going to improve in one aspect. And you know what? Sometimes you collaterally benefit the other aspects of your life when you seek to improve one.
It's like a cluster bomb of positivity.
You know what? But genuine. You know, there is such a thing as toxic positivity, and we are not about that here. This is like, I think this is as like real as it gets. You put work in, you get results. That's like the universal truth of like, even if you're cheating by like, let's say what people would consider cheating by like taking steroids or now Ozempic or lipo or whatever, those are still big choices, and you're getting the results and dealing with the consequences of your choices, right? So that's where so I do think this podcast is all about looking at all of these choices that we make in a more positive light so that we can use them to build on the successes of the past, right? We're streaming live on YouTube and on Twitch and on Facebook. And if you would like to subscribe, you can, or follow us, you will be notified when we go live. We try to go live every Sunday, and you can be a part of that by joining us when we go live. There's some people watching now. Thank you for watching. Please get in the comments.
Hey,
share with us your victories for the last week and your goals for this week. We're going to talk about it. We like to do a workout out of the week. Wow. We like to do a workout of the week. What body improvements, what tasks, what repetitive motions, what muscles, what workout will you be focusing on for the week? And then also, if you've got some goals that we might be able to help you with, we both have experience in different aspects of health and fitness, but we are by far from professionals and experts. We're not experts. We're just guys who are in the mindset and are trying to find community and people who are like-minded. So please, if you want to be helpful and share with us something, or you have a goal that you'd like to meet and you would like to ask us our opinion on, none of this, what we talked today is medical advice. None of it is to take everything with a little sense of self-introspection of whether or not that's a good idea for you. Don't do anything that you feel like you're going to hurt yourself doing. And if there's something you want to talk to a doctor about, please talk to a doctor before you listen to two random dudes. I think the universal truth is to talk to your doctor before you do anything a health influencer tells you to do that you're like, hey, I don't know. I feel like there should be some questions. Some people should be a little bit more skeptical on the internet. But yeah, thank you for joining us, and please share with us, get in the comments. We love it when people interact. Thank you so much. Will, we're starting off Sunday, right? What is, you mentioned something we were leading into the podcast. You talk about the Sunday scaries. As someone who does not have a regular 9 to 5 because I work in healthcare, that's kind of lost on me. You know what I mean? Like the Sunday scaries, I hear people talk about like when you only have a weekend at your disposal, the idea that it will end, it does get on people. Like it gets on people's minds.
Yeah, I think it's a. I mean, you could also get it when you were in school. Did you ever get it in school, like on a Sunday night? You get the Sunday scaries. You ever get that?
That yes, I mean it's such a far remote. I remember the idea of like feeling like I only have 2 days. Like Sunday never felt like a true day off
Yeah,
because you knew that you would have to wake up early on Monday. You know, like that was the stand. I guess my version of that now is when I work night shifts. So when I know my shift is coming that night, I feel like I got to take a nap at some point in the day. So that day is I guess ruined, you know, like when
yeah,
my
yeah,
my shifts start for the week. I guess it's similar, but it's just funny how we've accepted this kind of like negative like viewpoint on it versus like I've done what I've fulfilled my weekend time. I mean, it is capitalism is always the enemy. We've discussed that
yeah.
on
I
the show
think.
many times.
By
The
the way,
fact that you have to do that.
that's the biggest aspect of the Sunday scaries is the fact that I think it's that at the core, it's that my freedom is about to end, and I did not
Yes.
get to enjoy my freedom as much as I wanted to, especially if you have a lot of tasks like personal errands you have to do. You got to do the laundry, you got to do the cleaning, blah blah blah.
Yes.
You got to prep for the week, all that stuff, and it's like, yeah, I mean, even if you're doing like meal prep for the rest of the week, it's like I am technically working for what my week will be. So that's more
Yeah.
time out of my
Yeah.
personal life that I'm dedicating to going to work or whatever it is. So it's like, I have it like super bad these past couple months because I've been taking that
Mm.
carpentry class on Saturdays. So it's
Oh
like
yeah.
on Saturdays is usually when I would like do all my major cleaning and stuff. But now it's like, and then Sunday I could maybe in the
Mm.
morning I could take it easy. But now it's like I got to do everything on Sunday. But then
Yeah,
it's like,
I feel like that's a thing of the Sigma grind set bros on the internet. Basically, any if you we're two dudes talking into microphones on the internet, you shouldn't be trusting us with blanket like
mhm,
acceptance. Like you should always be questioning us because we have if we have the free time to do this, that means we're choosing to do this with our free time.
yeah,
You know what I mean? Like this is something I always say that, you know, like this is something we would be doing if we, cause we're friends and we share like this journey. We've been like talking about it. And also like this is something we would probably be doing just cause it's like therapeutic for us to talk and like check in every week and do stuff,
yeah.
you know? But the fact that we're recording it and putting it onto the internet doesn't mean you should trust us. In fact, you should probably question it more. But the idea that we're investing this time into something, the idea that you're doing this carpentry class, it's taking up your time. That it is like it should be viewed as an investment in
Hmm.
future things, but sometimes that can get away from you too, because then you're always thinking about this future that's never going to get here,
Yeah.
and that's you know that's what anxiety is. I think that's just like the not living in the now. I feel like it's hard to balance those things. I, as someone who's recently diagnosed with ADHD and is on medication, I use my whole life. My coping mechanism was to schedule the shit out of my time, like to just constantly be organizing into like some sort of pattern because that's what my brain craved.
Yeah.
Do you find that like if you were to do your meal prep or your cleaning interspersed throughout the week, do you feel like a checklist success thing would be like motivating for you? Like if you had like clean just the bathroom, clean just the kitchen, clean just the bedroom, and
Well,
do those like throughout the week.
to-do lists have never been good for me
Mm.
because it's like, all right, I have all this anxiety about what I have to do. So here are the things I have to check off on my
Mm.
list. And then at the end of the day, it's like it goes from anxiety to depression because it's here are the things I didn't accomplish. Oh, I didn't live
Right.
up to what I wanted to do. I didn't, you know, I didn't scrub the bathroom. I didn't do this. I didn't do this. And it's like, oh, then that depression sets in. So it goes from anxiety to depression real
Mm.
quick.
Mm.
One strategy I think it was my therapist, psychiatrist, I forgot which one told me, but they said instead of making a to-do list, get rid of the to-do list and do a got done list. But you do that at the end of the day
Oh.
instead of doing like
Oh.
a preemptive. Here's what I need to accomplish at the end of the
Right.
day. This is what I did today.
You know, that's such an interesting, like a more positive way to put it. Like,
Yeah.
here's what I accomplished today. That does feel like a much more positive. You want to know, like, this is how toxic my brain is. I know I'm trying to trick myself into motivating myself into doing more things. So I'm like almost resistant to my own brain trying to trick myself. Like it's like, I see what you're trying to do, brain. I see what, don't try to bamboozle me into thinking that I'm success. You know, like that whole like negative self-talk is such a default setting for most people
I
that
think
you're
it's
like,
I
I
think
see what you're trying to do.
I think it goes along. We've talked about this before, where it's the pop psychology world,
Mm,
where people who maybe they've gone to therapy a little bit and then they stop, or maybe they've never gone to therapy, but they absorb
right.
all these words, where they start to strategize psychologically
Yes.
how to improve their life without the foundation of an actual education and
Yes. Yep.
teaching. So it's like they go, I'm due. I've heard this before so many times on the internet, and I always roll my eyes at it when it's they go, what I got to do? I got to gaslight myself. And it's like,
Yes. What a terrible way to put it.
because it's like, people who gaslight are bad. They're
They're the
manipulating
villains.
you. So you are both the manipulator and the victim of that manipulation. You have two different kinds of trauma you're giving yourself.
Right. Yeah, because it is true. Like, if you're God, what do you call it? Like, if like being manipulated is ultimately like a form of being convinced. It's just the motive behind it. Like, an argument is always a form of like manipulation, right? Where but it's sometimes like you need to be manipulated to get to to like, I don't know how to say it. Like the way the
No,
language in psychology terms versus just how you conversational English, it feels there's something about being convinced of something that is very different than you were manipulated into believing something.
there's
But both
a
kind of fit, you
I've
know?
had conversations with my therapist about this, and she explained that anything you do to get your wants and needs met is technically manipulation. It's just a word. If you want to manipulate clay into looking like a certain structure, you are manipulating that clay.
Right,
So by
right.
saying, "Hey, could you do me a favor and do this?" Technically, that is a form of manipulation, but
Hmm.
it's the correct way to do it. Hey,
Right.
I this is something I need. Could you do this for me? I'm manipulating you into doing this thing that I want or need. Uh,
Right.
but if I'm not honest with that manipulation, if I gaslight or do whatever it is, find some way
Hmm.
to, trick you into doing something.
Right.
You shouldn't
Yeah.
want to trick anybody into doing anything. You
I,
should say,
yeah.
this is how I feel. This is the communication I'm
Right.
giving you. But if you're like, you know, uh, you could you look a little pudgy in those jeans,
Mm.
then it's like,
No, how dare you?
all those backhanded compliments. I don't think that was the correct
That's not
example I
really
gave with that.
backhanded. That's just kind of an
Yeah,
insult. Hey, looking
you
fat
know you
there.
know what
What? It's a compliment.
what somebody once said to me was one of the worst best backhanded compliments was you did gain weight, but you wear it well. And I was like,
Mm.
oh man, oh man.
Interesting. I have always, this you we're gonna, it's going to go into something we talked about where we're talking about in prep for the show, or something you sent me that you wanted to talk about. We are both kind of larger than average. I'm a bigger dude, like I've always been a large man.
Yeah.
And even when I was like a teenager, I was a large boy. I was a giant boy. Um, a boy giant, if you will. Comparatively to all the other people in my class, I was like a foot taller than, like, 6'4" at 15. Like that was the and I played football, so it was always like, get as big and as strong as you can and lift, like all this stuff. And then just recently, I had that conversation of like, that does kind of change your perspective on how people view you. And then
Yeah.
when people there was that push in terms of like, we should not comment on people's appearance at all, because you never know how they're going to take it, or you never
Yeah.
know what it means. And I remember when I lost weight, where at one point I got down to like 225, from like 325 to like 225, which is very slim for me. Like
Yeah.
230 is 225 is like nothing. And someone was like, "Oh my God, you look like a completely different person."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh," like they were so, like, it's almost that they were so complimentary of the weight loss that it almost I either they inferred or I implied a sense of or they implied or I inferred a sense of disgust at my former self, right? And again, motive is the key, you know, like what they were intending was is like kind of the whole point. They were coming at it from a positive angle of like, look how good you look how good you look, you've improved yourself, you must have really tried to really change you, whatever. And then my inference was, Jesus, how bad did I look before? How
Yeah.
gross did they think I was before? And that was a real kind of kick in the pants psychologically to get, just because now I look how I want to look. I'm like better looking, and I'm filled with this kind of like defensiveness over my past self, because that's like the like, I don't know, I was trying to write a joke about like how like I've been with me the whole time. So you do, so the progress that I see is the day to day, that minute by minute progress, right? Like I'm with me the whole time. So when someone finally sees me after a while and they're like, oh, whatever, it's like I'm still that guy, but you are now valuing me more because of my appearance. It was a hard hurdle to get over, because then suddenly that handshake of social contract that comes when people talk about like, became this thing of like when Lizzo now has lost a bunch of weight with the Ozempic, everybody's like really slimming down, and people are like, what happened to the body positivity movement? What happened to the healthy at every size? Was that genuine, or was that something that people were doing just for the trends and all that stuff? And it's a tough conversation to have, but the street level of it, like the day-to-day level of it, is like people commenting on people's appearance as like a default thing.
Yeah, that's one of the things, having experienced that, I'm aware of how because once again, because people ask me fitness advice, or they want to talk to me about fitness or weight loss or whatever it is. I'm very aware of the words I say to the person as far as like complimenting them. Because, like you said, so many people would say like, oh my God, you look good. You look good now. You look so handsome now, or whatever it is. And it's like,
yeah.
so
It's
I
like,
wasn't
wait a minute.
before.
Yeah.
I was unfuckable before, but now that I've lost the weight. But it's so whenever somebody says, I've lost 20 pounds, instead of saying, oh, you look great, I say, oh, how do you feel after losing that?
What a great, so that is such a great understanding of why people share information about themselves.
Yeah.
That is such a fundamental understanding of when there's this culture about like the anti-yap culture, like, oh, these people are yapping. That's like the new term for like when people are just talking about themselves. There's a difference between someone who's yapping on and on and on, and somebody who's just trying to have a conversation and sharing their life. You know, like there should be, it's not like a negotiation, but when someone tells you that and you ask them how it makes them feel about doing that, you know, you don't know if someone lost 20 pounds because they got a disease. You don't know if they lost 20 pounds because they've been depressed and and just stopped eating, some sort of disordered eating. You don't know any of those things. All you have to do is be curious.
Yeah.
That curiosity about other people is kind of a fundamental, it should be this fundamental thing. I think that's like a lost art of conversation, is being curious. Like if somebody were to say, oh man, I've been putting a lot of work in at the gym, and you don't see the benefit, and you don't see like, oh, it's like, oh, hey, what are you doing? I've been going to the gym for like a month now, and I'm not, and it's like, oh, how do you feel about what you just said is such an important question. I don't know.
Yeah.
That just kind of like refreshed my brain a little bit of that.
Yeah.
When people come up to you and give, like you the last couple episodes you talked about how you moved to a new gym, you're doing new stuff, etc. When you've been in these places, are there people that come up to you and either give unsolicited advice, or like they're not asking any questions about, they're not curious about you, they're just starting the conversation? Don't you immediately feel like standoffish a little bit?
A little bit. I think it happened more at Planet Fitness. Granted, I've only been going to this gym for about a month now, but at Planet Fitness there was a lot of that, because there are a lot of like new people at Planet Fitness. It's like an entry level
starter
gym.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of people like, hey, what's that exercise you're doing, or what does that work, or hey, a lot of old ladies would come up to me and be like, how do I tighten this part up?
Right, but they're asking a question though. That's the key.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, the asking questions is such a vital thing that I think people either take defensively, or the questions are asked with a motive that you can feel is not truly genuine. There's some sort of like, and again, it's all about like walking around with an intent, like with this kind of underlying manipulation, like that feeling of like, well, what are they asking this for? What do they
Yeah.
want out of this conversation? As opposed to just like it's kind of like, again, the handshake of the social contract was like, if I walk around thinking everybody's going to be antagonistic with me, then I'm the problem. But if someone is constantly walking around being antagonistic with everyone, then like it's hard to, it's interesting to find that balance. I was at work, and then we were having, healthcare is a very high stress environment. There's a lot of conversations that happen where someone in my department is viewed as a complainer. They are the ones that are constantly pointing out all these negative things without providing any solutions, and that's kind of who they are in that world, and the problem comes in where, if you the saying came up where it's like, if you're constantly surrounded by assholes, it's time to look inward, right? Like, if you are constantly surrounded by idiots, it's time to turn that camera around and maybe maybe do some introspection where it's like, oh, am I the asshole? Like that does feel like it was like, it was so funny, man, because you could see it dawn on her of like, oh, right. And like, this is how people view me. It wasn't even my first day of work, and people are already like, if you hear this name, it's bad when they just mention, they're like, this is a name you got to watch out for, and then they just kind of move on. I was like, oh fuck.
I mean,
The goal is to not be that person.
that goes to that philosophy that it's like, if you're talking to somebody and they're always just complaining about all these other people at
Yeah.
work, at school, they're going to complain about you too.
Yeah. That's the
So
constant, like,
be
who are you
aware of
surrounding
that
yourself
person.
by? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. If they can lie to, no, what is it? They can lie to you,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
If they gossip to you, they will gossip about you. That kind of
Yeah.
mentality of like, that Maya Angelou quote that people always leave out the second part, which I think is vital, where Maya Angelou said, when people show you who they are, believe them. The rest of the quote is, believe them the first time. You know what I mean? Like, when people show you who they are, believe them the first time. Like, okay, that's who you are. I can choose how to interact with you, but that's who you are immediately.
Yeah.
Like the whole art of the first impression and all that shit. It falls into that category. I guess, to segue the idea of a first impression, you sent me the picture. You've been watching the show, and you sent me a picture of this dude, and I'm astounded by the largeness of this man.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
This is what's his? I forget his name.
Yeah.
Olivier Richter's from Reacher. It's you can't see the bottom there, but it says that he gets emotional about his size. He was talking about like being this giant. He's like He's like bigger than Shaq.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And he's also a gigantic bodybuilder. Like he has like a massive amounts of muscle, but his height, if you could see it basically on the top right frame, how like he is a giant man. And he says, I'm getting emotional. It felt like a curse. And I made it into a gift thanks to bodybuilding. Basically,
Yeah.
like,
I kind of, it's the way he said it, I kind of switched around to make it make more sense. But yeah, he was like, in that video, he's like straight up like tearing up because he's
yeah.
talking about like how he like didn't fit into society, and people made fun of him for being so tall, that kind of stuff, and nothing in the world fit him, which is also another thing.
I completely get that.
And
That's a rough one for me, because we're literally having a conversation about that struggle today.
yeah, and it's like he in that video, the Jesse James West video, he was so tall he couldn't fit into normal gyms, so he had to build a gym for himself, where it's like all the machines are, allow for a taller person, allow for a lankier person, the length of the legs, the arms, the torso, everything. Like the lat pull down machine is higher, and which is like something. It's like when I was going to Planet Fitness, it was whenever I did like hanging leg raises, because I'm a big fan of those. So tall, I would have to like do like a static pull up and
Right.
then
Well, that's
do
why
my
I use the
legs.
captain's chair or whatever.
Yeah.
I have to use that because I can't hang. That's such a fundamental, like, the arc of motion on a lot of these like fixed machines do not fit.
Yeah,
Like, they're made for the average person, right? Everything is like, every article of clothing, unless you're getting it custom made, is cut for like the most average of people. When you fall outside of that scope, even by a little bit, it does feel like he is way, like, he's a giant man, right? Like, he has to take so many different considerations into his existence because of that it does. I see how that could feel a burden, because I am slightly too big for the earth, and it is a struggle. It is hard. Like, I had to buy a car, right? Recently, like last year, I bought a car. And like, I was trying to buy the most affordable car I could. And like, I don't fit in a Toyota Corolla. Like, I do not fit in a small car. Genuinely, the seats don't, like, they push in places they shouldn't push.
yeah.
In my shoulders, an airplane, forget it. It's a kind of a real struggle. It's interesting. And so, like, it's interesting you brought this to my attention, because it's like, he looks like a super ripped dude. For him to accomplish that goal with his dimensions
Yeah.
is kind of astounding. It's kind of like he's like like, who knows how far outside the bell curve of humanity on so many things.
He talks about it too, where it's he was basically like, "How did you get so tall?" Is it a Marfan syndrome? Some sort of pituitary thing, hormones? And he was like, "Yeah, I went through all the tests, and all my hormones are correctly balanced, and there's no, tumor in my head, and nothing." He said it's purely genetics, where he is just, that's how his DNA spliced together to make him.
Oh, yeah, that's interesting. Oh, I'm sorry. I just noticed they showed him before he started working out. Let me see.
Oh yeah, he's got like almost like a concave chest a little bit.
Yeah, and it's hard, because I don't think people understand leverage when it comes to working out, and why you see so many short dudes that are just, it's so easy to put on muscle when you're shorter, that it's hard to like process that it does not, you can't, it doesn't scale equally. It doesn't scale universally. For him to be as tall as he is, and to build compact, dense, big muscles, there had to have been like some insane mechanical work to be done to make that kind of thing happen. So it's interesting to see where his starting point, because where he ends is kind of astounding. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off about your point, but yeah, the idea that being outside of the rate, like, it was just like he had this in him, like, genetically to begin with. Otherwise, I don't think it would have been possible. But yeah, it's pretty insane. This guy, so he's in Reacher 3, and you can see that how much taller he is. I mean, it's hard to say on movies and TV, because they do
but
angles.
Like Reacher is huge.
He's already it's like that picture of Arnold Schwarzenegger next to Wilt Chamberlain and Andre the Giant. Like, it's so it's kind of impressive that kind of human exists. Like, that is a thing that humanity is capable of.
Yeah,
it's pretty cool. I mean, I'm kind of like just impressed at his base default settings, for then to put in the work to get to this kind of incredibly elite level human.
It's funny because you see a guy like that, and you understand why, like, they call him a giant, and you understand why there are these myths about giants, because every once in a while, the BMI, body mass index, was originally based on Scottish infantrymen from like the 16 or 1500s.
I did not know that.
And that's how we got the BMI thing. And so it's like Scottish infantrymen were like 5'6", and they had a certain, I forgot who it was. Some guy was like, here's how much they should weigh versus how much they bow and the height and everything. But it's like, you say the average infantryman was 5'6", and then every once in a while, somebody pops out a 7'8" person, like this guy pops out, and they're like, "Oh, this is a guy's a giant." Like, they see that guy on a battlefield,
some mythical creature. Yes,
they have a giant with them. This guy who's 3 feet taller than everybody else. Yes. Obviously, there's a mythical giant behind them.
And again, in a world where, we don't really like the toxic, like that kind of like, be a warrior in a garden rather than a gardener in a war. Like, we don't subscribe to all that bullshit. But back when it was a true thing you may have to go to war, or you just farm, Like, I think people have like an illusion of like every time there's a video about like rock climbers competing with bodybuilders or like the construction worker doing their
Yeah,
strength
yeah, yeah.
tests and all that stuff. And you see like people who just do the functional, like they're not working out. They just exist in a day to day that requires more of them. They have developed strength without developing size. So if you could imagine like I'm sure the 5'6" guys were plenty strong. It's not about strength. It's
Yeah,
just
yeah.
about the intimidation and like the reach of somebody who is equally dealing with that day-to-day struggle of just surviving. Imagine if you can get to 7 feet tall back in the day, how many resources you needed to consume, how many
Yeah.
calories, how many grams of protein, how many, like now knowing what we know now with in the back of the day, could you imagine like if you popped out a 7-foot baby, they'd be like, oh no, come on, stop popping out these giant kids, how are we gonna feed them? You know, like the infantry signs up a guy who's like 7 feet tall. It's like, is he worth it? I don't know, maybe we just get 2 5'6" guys, they eat about as much, you know, like how do you balance the resource draw? You know, how do you make sure he gets his protein intake back in a time when that was not guaranteed, at least to say.
But also think to your point where you talk about the expectations that are, the macho man kind of stuff, where it's like one line that always has stuck with me that probably shouldn't have stuck with me as much as it
Mm.
did, but in Game of Thrones, when one of the evil traitorous
Mm, mm.
night guardsmen, what do they call them? Night watchmen,
The
watchers on the wall guys.
yeah, the
Uh,
wall. God, what are they called? The Night's Watch. Yeah, they're not
yeah,
Night's
the
Watch,
Night's
I
Watch.
guess.
One of them, they capture Hodor, and
Mm.
he goes, if I was your size, I'd rule the world. And there were so many times in my life, especially as a kid, when they were like, man, if I was your size, I'd play basketball. If I was your size, I'd play football. I'd be in the NFL. I'd do, and it's like, I don't know, man. I just want to eat these fudge rounds and read my comic books, man. I don't want to be
Yeah, I have
I don't
zero
want to be a
desire to take
Viking
over the world.
child. I don't want.
Yes,
I just want to be nice to
this isn't
people.
this isn't 300. You're not
Yeah,
King Leonidas being sent off to kill a wolf with a spear. You're just some guy. Like that's the thing is that like we struggle. This is a such an interesting kind of approach because it really is. Most people just live average lives, and then on occasion you get to see what the glimpses outside of average real kind of look like.
yeah,
Uh, and again, the gym I think is an important place to test those limits, right? Like everyone who's at the gym is there who's there for the right reasons is there to improve themselves, point blank. Like that's the goal of the gym is to improve your physical strength, your fitness, your cardiovascular fitness, and in some cases physical therapy for recovering injuries, stuff like that, because that's also a form of self-improvement. Correcting an injury is a form of self-improvement. Correcting an ailment, some sort of, or like it's increasing strength in other areas to improve the effects, to kind of subtract the effects of another ailment. Somebody, like I was watching this guy who was has only one arm, and he was doing like clean and jerk, like he was just doing these like powerlifting presses with one arm, and I'm like, that man would have to have the best balance and eye for like that guy knows the center of every bar in that gym. You know what I'm talking? Because he would have to. He's better at it than you because he would have to, because that's part of his growth.
yeah,
That's the only way that he would have been able to get to where he's going, and that's like a thing that this show is all about, the collateral benefit. Like if you're constantly working on, like you were talking about the Smith machines when you were in Planet Fitness,
yeah,
you in a new environment would then now have to activate different muscles to counteract the training wheels, so to speak, that you've been on.
yeah,
You know.
yeah. It's because of the especially at the Planet Fitness I was at, the Smith machine was so poorly maintained that I
Mm,
developed like a imbalance in my right shoulder and
mm,
the I forgot the name of the scapular whatever muscle that goes like underneath the shoulder blade.
right,
So
right.
it's like it's actually like it kind of pushes forward now,
Mm.
because I was always having to like twist when I was pushing up. But it is like now when I'm like on a regular I'm like, oh, it's all the way down, all the way down. Okay, cool, and
Yeah,
I can
yeah. You
feel
have to
it.
like, yeah, you have to counteract this kind of like learned behavior, like
Yeah.
because ultimately that's the like the pros and cons of safety, unfortunately, right?
Yeah.
Like you have like training wheels on a bike can get you to learn how to pedal, but that balance you get will only be learned once you take the training wheels off, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of a universal, like that's like a universal approach to like life. Once you take the training wheels off, the thing you know how to do, you still know what to do, but you now have to account for all the other things that the training wheels were preventing you from dealing with.
Yeah.
You know, what's up to the people in the chat? You still wear tidy whities is watching. Luis XO99, what's up? I love a good screen name. I love a
Yeah.
good screen name. You still wear tidy whities. That's a solid. Um, and Luis, what's up, man? We're talking about fitness. We're talking about collateral benefit. What are you working on to improve in your life, and how has it improved the other aspects of your life? Give us a shout. Let us know. When it comes to the idea of strength, do you think? I think about that Braveheart scene a lot, where William Wallace invites this big monstrous dude to throw a giant rock at him, and then he picks up a little rock and he nails him in the face, right? Like the guy with the big rock misses. It's a old classic scene. I think that's a kind of a perfect example of like the illusion of strength versus the illusion of like training and safety. What takes more strength? Throwing something as hard as you can, and as hard as you can, or taking it and placing it gently where you can put it without it damaging anything else around it, right? Like what takes more strength? And I think that's like an interesting conversation when it comes to like fitness, where are you a power lifter that you just want to or are you building targeting specific areas or whatever?
I wouldn't even link that into what we were talking about before about how body proportions can affect people in different ways. There's a classic example of Arnold Schwarzenegger's training partner was Franco Columbu, and he was a tiny Italian man, whereas Arnold Schwarzenegger was this giant hulking Austrian. And Arnold was doing all these bench these big pecs in the chest and all this stuff, and he could lift more than Franco. But then if you put them both on a pull-up bar, Arnold has these giant long arms, whereas Franco has these tiny ones. And he also weighs less because he is a good 2 feet shorter. So it's like he's able to rep out these pull-ups, whereas like Arnold is like three in, and he's like struggling because he has more length to go.
The range of motion.
He also
the
weighs
levers
more.
are longer. Yeah.
So it's like who's stronger, Franco or Arnold? And like technically, Arnold on a 1 rep max is stronger than Franco, but if you put him on the pull-up bar, Franco's gonna smoke him.
Yeah, and I think some people look. I saw this video, and this is a gentleman. He does training, and I guess he was doing like a challenge to try different workouts. I'm not 100% sure what the history leading up to this, but this is a bodybuilder, fitness like expert. Like this guy, he's not just a power lifter. He's doing like a lot of full core functionality and stuff like that. This is him doing Pilates, and he is struggling. You know, like all of these things. I want you to focus on the women around him who are doing this like on a casual Tuesday. No shaking. Look at how he's like shaking, and look at the women next to him who are just like casually. They're middle-aged women, just kind of chilling. Look.
The dude's doing the Dougie.
He's literally cannot hold. He's cat daddy and all over the place. He literally cannot hold himself up in certain positions, and he is feeling legit pain. While the person next to him, who does not look as strong as him, he's a big, strong dude. Look at the Pilates lady's kind of laughing at him a little bit. Oh my glutes, you know, like there's very like the perception of what strength is wildly varied in this perspective, in this context. You know what I mean?
This here's a great example. Oh, this guy, I love this guy with his dog. I know what you're talking about now. This is a great example of what's called novel stimulus. which is
Mm.
kind of goes along with, this is basically what progressive overload is you just got to stimulate your muscle in a way that's never been stimulated before. Some people call it muscle confusion, which is like an
Yeah,
old,
yeah.
but I mean, it's basically he's never used these. It's the Matrix thing. Why do my
Eyes
legs hurt?
hurt.
Eyes hurt
Yeah, yeah.
because you've never used them before.
Right.
It's also has to do with skill set.
Sure.
He doesn't have the skills and the movement pattern down yet.
Yeah.
It's very similar. Like if you want to talk about strength versus what strength means, it's like if you're a power lifter
Mm.
and you're doing a 1 rep max versus somebody who's a bodybuilder or a CrossFitter or whatever it is who's doing multiple reps, where it's like there is a skill set to doing a powerlifting. Like if you're like
Yeah.
Eddie Hall and you're lifting, what do you made it like 2,000 pounds or whatever it was,
Right, right.
a
Yeah.
thousand pounds. It's like he knows exactly, like you were talking about before with
yes,
the guy
yes.
with the
He
one
knows
arm.
how to stack his
He
muscle.
knows,
Yes.
yeah, but there's a skill to it, and it's you have to train that skill. So in the same way,
Yeah.
like these Pilates people have been training this movement pattern, they know what to do, whereas he's like, I'm still trying to figure it out. Even
Yeah.
like when I'm on the bench press, like recently, I really had to like knock the weight down where I could stack like 3 plates on each side before, and I could rep it out, and now I'm like, fuck, I got like a 45 and a 25 on each side. And I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, let's.
That's the ego death, man. You have to suffer like you have to be willing to embrace the fact that you are good at the things you're good at, but the second you take certain training wheels you didn't know were on there,
Yeah,
right? Like, because that's really what it is. It's even mentally you're keeping yourself in these rails within these zones that the second you kind of scoot out of them, things are difficult in ways that you are not prepared for. That's that whole conversation of like, I hate the phrase survival of the fittest because it's not true.
yeah,
That is not what happened. The survival of the, like people say like, oh, only the strong survive. It has nothing to do with strength. It has to do with adaptability.
yeah,
It's the survival of the most adaptable. And that's what it meant. Fittest was like the fittest for the environment in which they were,
yeah,
right? So like if a mutation occurred in a bird that made it easier for it to catch the fish that was around, that bird was going to live long enough to have babies way easier, and then it would share that that trait down the road. That's literally what natural selection means.
yeah,
But then you put that same mutation in an environment where they eat seeds, and that just makes the beak weaker, and it's not about fish, it's about seeds and plants and stuff. Then suddenly that bird is not going to get an advantage, it's a disadvantage.
yeah,
So like in the Pilates class, having big, strong, heavy muscles that you've built to increase size doesn't necessarily translate to effectiveness in that environment. When you see, somebody's, grandma just casually looking over, you'd be like, what are you, it reminds, oh my God. When I used to do martial arts, when I was at the Unified Martial Arts Academy in South Florida, studying Jeet Kune Do, they also had, in between I had a Filipino Kali class, and then there was a class in between, and then there was a Muay Thai class. That was like on Wednesdays. And in between, they had a cardio kickboxing class. That was all ladies, and all the dudes kind of casually, this was, the late 90s, so everyone was real toxic. And they casually kind of like joked around about it and blah, blah, blah. And since I was there for before and after, I was hang out. And there was a group of us that kind of just hung out, and we would go get something to eat and then come back. Until one day, the teacher, the main guy's wife was the one that taught that class. She was like, I've had enough of you guys being here and talking shit. Any one of you, I challenge you for free right now, come do this class. And then, so we were all like, oh no, we do the real Muay Thai class. We do when I tell you that I got the shit kicked out of me so hard, like it was the hardest thing I've done. I couldn't do the Muay Thai class afterwards. It was so hard because they had us doing all of these exercises and things that we were not used, all the booty blasting back kicks and the kickbacks or whatever, all these floor things where we had to do like the calisthenics on the floor where we were doing a bunch of stuff. You'd see all of us like struggling. And I that's why when I saw this video, I was having like flashbacks to that, because it was a lesson learned very early on about how that is strength looks different in different capacities,
Yeah.
in different contexts. I think that's a kind of an important
Yeah.
lesson to learn. The sooner you learn that lesson, the better, I think.
That's why I think it's like interesting that like there's all this like gendered exercises. Like
Yeah.
when I there was a period of like a year and a half, almost 2 years, where I went from like uh a tear in my right knee to a tear in my left
Oof.
knee
Yeah.
to sciatica, all within the course of like 2 years. So like
Mm.
leg day was basically non-existent for me. The only exercise I could do for my lower body was basically the abductor machine, where you it's like a hip abduction, and
Yes.
the
Yeah.
adductor machine as well. And people would make fun of me. It's like, that's a girl exercise, and it's like, I don't know, man. Have you ever done it? Like it it tears.
Brutal.
It's fucking horrifically beautiful in the way that it can grow your glutes, strengthen your hips. And then once I found out about hip thrust, I was like doing hip thrust and stuff. Especially now at the new gym I have, there's a literal booty. It's called the booty builder machine, which is
Oh.
basically just an easier way to do a hip thrust.
Mm.
As far as like setting it up, because with the hip thrust you got to put it on a bar and all this stuff. But this one is just straight up like you put a seatbelt around your lap and you can go at it. But it's like even today, people are dudes online, the super macho masculine ones are like, I'm not gonna do a hip thrust, I'm just gonna do squats. It's like, yeah, well, yeah, it's fucking it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You will feel your butt for the first time.
It's available on AliExpress for $1,681 if you want to buy a booty blasting machine. I clicked on my mistake. It's like a hip thrust strap machine. There's a video I saw of a similar context of like this girl. She does she's a fitness influencer, but she's like her name is Emerson, I think. And then all the dude, like she invites all of these dudes. It's like, oh, you want to try and do what I'm doing? And they're like, why are you so strong? What are you training for? Because they're all struggling with these exercises because they never do them. And I think I always love that context of like, I'm like, people assume I'm a lot stronger or I'm stronger. I don't know. It's hard to say. I don't never, people come up with assumptions based on how I look all the time. I never know which side they're going to fall on, whether they think I'm stronger than I am
Yeah,
or
yeah,
they
yeah.
think, or they think I'm not as strong as I actually am. So it's always like interesting to see the mindset that people have when they see somebody who's as big as me, but they always underestimate some of these like the stuff that these girls are doing at the gym where I'm looking at the weight and I'm like, yeah, I don't think you guys understand what's going on here. Like some people just have such ingrained gender biases that
Yeah.
it's like that's pretty good for a girl. Like that's better than what you're doing. You are not strong enough to like you could see it if you're good at like making the connections. You're just like that what you're doing is less impressive. Everybody max benches. Not
Yeah.
everybody's doing these crazy huge kickback hip thrust whatever booty blasting exercises at the level that this person is doing them.
One of
So
the
yeah.
greatest exercises for your lower body is a step up, which is literally just a bench or a stair, and you just take one leg and step up. And you see like women at the gym will have like 5 or 10 pound weights, and you go, oh, it's not a serious exercise because it's only 5 or 10 pounds. It's like, bro, do 15 reps
Yeah.
per leg for 3 sets,
Let's
and
see how you fare.
yeah, it's brutal. It's brutal.
It not only is it like brutal, but like once you get good at it, you're strong in a way that a lot of people are not.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that whole if you can bench 2 plates, you're stronger than a certain level. That's because they know that because of how obvious or how ubiquitous bench presses are. But or like now with deadlifts, where people are talking about like how impressive, like they measure strength by a deadlift, and then you see, like people who have never, like you say, it's just picking something up off the ground.
Yeah.
The best exercises are the ones that mimic a real life kind of necessary strength. Like
Yeah.
the farmer's carry is a sign of like longevity, like how you can live, how long you will live in your life. If you can carry, I think it's like 60 pounds. I forget. There's a certain number where it's like, if you can do this, you will live longer than most people.
Yeah.
And if you can do this into old age, you will, it like adds longevity to like a farmer's carry, just carrying stuff, like in your hands, like groceries, which is like when I was a little kid. I wish I could go back in time
Oh
and tell
yeah.
him, like, when you're trying to get all the groceries in on one trip from the car. That is me training to live longer. That's my longevity training where I try to carry all these. When I'm trying at church, when I used to put all the chairs away and I had to carry like 6 chairs in each hand, and then some old lady would be like, "Oh, such a strong boy," and I felt good for the rest of the week.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I was training to live a longer life. That's the goal. But yeah, I don't. But separate from that, we should probably get into just like in summary our workout of the week. Wow, we talk about a workout of the week.
Wow.
I will say in a correct, my workout of the week will, it falls in line with that because I used to do these a lot when I was playing football, and I remember them really helping. But also now that I'm older, I want to try and figure out a way to make them so that they don't hurt my knees. But speaking of a farmer's carry, a lunge. I used to do lunges up and
Mm,
down. They used to make us do lunges up and down the basketball court, holding 25s in each hand.
yeah.
And I remember that I used to max squat all the time because I didn't know any better, and that was the whole point of like you do it you until failure. When they made us do this exercise up and down the basketball court a couple times, I could not press the brakes on my car hard enough because I was so dead. And it was like the same way that guy was shaking in the Pilates video, my foot was like bouncing on the brake pedal. Like I was like, oh please, no. And it was like when they made us work out chest and my triceps to the point that we would like die, and I would have to turn my car and I'd be like, like that kind of like to failure. I want to see if I can find a way to incorporate some more lunges, like weighted lunges with where like that stance of the fireman's carry, but like just to
Yeah,
incorporate that a little bit more.
that's a top tier exercise.
Yeah, yeah. The lunges. What is it? It's just lunges with the dumbbells, right? Like
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, you can do it without dumbbells. You can do them
that's true.
holding a basketball in front of you. You can, however you want to do them. Just
I guess.
walk it up and down the court.
Mm.
But yeah, it's funny that the thing about like how you have trouble like with your muscles living your actual life, where it's like so many times I've gone to the gym and I work like, I don't know, biceps or whatever it is, and I'll have like an after shower. After the gym, I'll go to the shower and I'll be like washing my hair, and then like I get a cramp where I can't move, and it's like right there. And you're like, oh, why? It's him just shampooing my hair.
It's like all of a sudden that's happened to me sometimes where all of a sudden you get the T-Rex arms where you're like because your biceps like just I quit, and you're just like, hey, no, please. That's funny. That's a good one. What's your workout of the week, Will? What do we got for you?
It's actually very similar to your
Mm.
lunge, your walking lunges. I love a good front foot elevated split squat, uh,
Ooh.
which is I think it's best to do on a Smith machine. And I think what you do is just put maybe you can stack a couple plates in front of you. You can put a bench in front of you. You could put just some way to elevate your front foot as you're doing a split squat.
What does
And
that elevation give you?
what it does is not only does it give you more range of movement, but the best way to
You
especially isolate your glutes is to have your hips as acute as possible of an angle,
Mm.
because then you're putting more emphasis on your glute muscles. So as you're down the stretch position, the length position at the bottom there, as you're pressing up, it's really hitting your glute right there. So the lower you can go, the higher the elevation of your front foot, the more you're going to target your glute and the more stretch you're going to get on it.
So, hold on, let's see where this guy.
It
So you're talking about similar to this kind of situation?
exactly, yeah. He's doing it with a couple plates that he's holding right there.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but he's actually pushing more with his quads right there.
Right. So now he's put a plate under his heel, so his
Yeah,
toe it gives him a little bit more elevation in the heel, and you're saying that he's leaning more forward to work out a different muscle.
yeah. For instance, if he put his back completely straight up and down, that's pretty almost very vertical right there. You're gonna hit more of your quads, your thighs.
Mm.
But if you lean forward as you're doing it, you're going to put more emphasis on your glute max and glute medius, and also your glute minimus too. So you get the whole,
Sure.
all three of the
The whole
butts.
glute family,
Yeah,
all the butt muscles.
and the
What is so you're saying this is like in line with the lunges and also working out that core? What does that translate to in terms of like like real life
oh, that's just life. That's
life? Yeah.
because once again, we always talk about how the better your hip strength, the better your hip flexors are, the
Mm,
more longevity you're going to have in life. Because one of the worst things you can do as an old person is break your hip, because it's
yep.
like once you hit that, and it's like, oh, your mortality rate goes up. But yeah, it's great to do these, especially on a Smith machine, because one of the things that's great about Smith machine is you can push to failure. So it's you
Mm,
can do more reps, which goes along with the idea that you don't have to do a 1 rep max every single time. That you can push to failure. That you think, oh, I can't get 2 more. It's great. In the men's health video of the
mm.
giant, he talks about the benefit of when you think you can't do any more, pause for like 2 or 3 seconds. You're going to get an energy boost, and you could probably rep out a couple more if you wanted.
Mm,
That's if you want to go to complete failure or
mm.
go closer to failure. You don't have to go zero RRR. You can just use this to approach failures as much as you want to, especially when you're doing it like this, where balance becomes an issue, where you could fall off that front foot. You could
Right.
lean back or whatever it is, but the Smith machine will help you. Another thing with this, instead of as you're going down, as you see that guy did, his back
Mm,
foot, he kind of pushes off a little bit. If you, instead of hitting your toe when you hit the mat with your back foot, goes like he's doing right there. When you do that,
mm.
a lot of people, they'll push off with that back foot. You don't want that. You want to put as much emphasis on that front leg as possible.
You're
So
trying to
instead,
isolate the front
yeah,
leg.
it's almost like you're doing like pistol squats basically. So
Yeah.
instead of touching down with your toe, flip your foot so you actually touch the ground with your shoelace. And that way you're not going to be tempted to push off with that back foot.
Oh, so you're saying point the toe and drag, like almost like a toe drag
Yeah,
situation. Ah, so you're really so you're genuinely isolating the
yeah. It's straight up just complete and
right.
utter destruction to that glute. And it's beautiful.
That's yeah, that's what we that's what we stand for here at Collateral Benefit on Zeros on Heroes. Destruction of glute destroyers. But yeah, that's great. I really that solid workouts of the week. Thank you everybody who's in the chats, Lena Color Queen and Sammy Bibi. Whether you are bots who want to do stuff or not, just let me know. Who is who? I don't know who is. I
Yeah,
don't know what that means.
I hope
Who's who?
tidy I hope tidy whitey guy isn't a bot.
I hope he's not. I love that name. Sammy, baby. I'm Mike Mercadal. You can follow me at Mike Mercadal on all social media platforms, and that's William A. Watkins over there, and you can follow him at William A. Watkins on all social media platforms. If you have any questions about the workouts of the week, or you want to tell us about your favorite workouts, something you're focused on, send us an email at zerosonheroes@gmail.com. This show's all about improving your life. Hey, how are you improving your life? And in what unexpected or surprising ways has it improved other areas of your life or the lives around you? Because we're all about body, mind, and the community, how it goes out into the world. Thank you for providing us with that promo section, Sammy Baby. I appreciate you. Let's get into our summary of the week. We have our categories. We have body, mind, and community. Last week, Will, you wanted to take a focus for your body, free weight and balance, which we referenced
Yeah,
today,
yeah,
and we did talk about it. So how has that progress been going, and what are your goals for your body this week?
yeah. Much better. I did when you talk about training, it is you're training your muscles. Like you're
Yes.
training yourself, you're training your skills, you're training everything involved with it. So yeah, dude, I was able to I'm not as wobbly, I have more
Mm.
control. And there was a thing where it's like, oh, I think like today I put a little extra weight on. I'm like, oh, I could maybe get up to those three plates on each side eventually sooner
Oh,
than I thought. So there was that optimism that comes along with it as well.
great.
Uh,
And for the
for
week, what are we doing?
for the week, I think I want to get more into. I used to take boxing classes at like Rumble.
Mm.
Fitness is like a fitness class, but the prices went up and it wasn't a good vibe in there anymore. But the one of the reasons I signed up at this new gym is not only do they have fitness classes that are included in the membership, they also have just like a heavy bag anybody can use whenever you want to. So I
Mm.
think I want to start incorporating more fitness classes and boxing training. I want to get back into the boxing, and I got enough knowledge in my noggin that I can just go through the different combos and stuff like that, and
Man,
really get the heart rate going.
there's something pretty great about explosive movement into like punch, like the punches and kicks of a punching bag. Like it's hard to explain. Like if when you do it right, because a lot of people think they're doing it right and they're not. There's a
Yeah,
technique to all of it. The second you feel like a good snap punch kick or whatever that hits a heavy bag, that makes that noise.
yeah,
And anybody who's done it right knows the noise I'm talking about. Where all of a sudden you hear it sounds different. I literally just gave myself goosebumps right now talking about how good it feels when you get the motions right, you do it right. It's something like it's like an orchestra playing something, hitting a chord perfectly, hitting some harmony perfectly, where everything lines up perfect, and you go flap, and it makes a noise.
yeah.
It's hard to explain how good that feels unless you've done
It's
it. It's so cool.
it's very akin to the bomb that Django Fett sets off.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah,
Wow.
that noise triggers some dopamine or endorphin release in your brain where you're like, yes, give me more of this. That it's hard to explain how good that feels.
Yeah,
But yeah,
that
that's great.
when from when I was growing up, I was like, oh, I thought it was like baseball. It's like the follow
Mm.
through. You got to follow, but it's like I didn't realize there was a. It's basically like you're cracking a whip, where it's like a
Yes, yeah.
snap, and
Yeah.
it's like, oh yeah, that good like.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's hard. You can't mimic it. Like you can't do it unless you're doing it. It doesn't make the same. But there is that sensation. So good, so good.
yeah,
I my body goals for the last week were about music and practicing my music muscles, which I did not do as much as I would like, but I did pull my guitars down and kind of get them prepared. Like I warmed them up. Like I'm like, oh great. Calluses on your fingers when like my whole forearm was dying, and I tried to get so what this is a very common um, workout device for guitar players
yeah,
where you
yeah,
have to where you try to do individually. You see how weak my ring finger is? It is so weak. My pinky's stronger. It's like it's hard to explain, but like these are great. I want to start the baseball players in my high school. We used to walk around and they would have like competitions to get like the squeeze down, but this has become like a new fidget toy for me,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
and this is how I'm training my music muscles while also giving me super like thick, juicy vasculature in my forearms. That are covered up right now. So that was my last week goal. This week I want to focus more on my like the well, you were talking about the hip thrusts and all of that stuff, that those are good for my back and my PT and all that stuff, because
Yeah.
like when you lose focus for a little while, sometimes you have to like kind of reset and be like, oh, you know what, I'm feeling the effects of me not doing my PT, so I should probably refocus on that. So core, like all of the glute stuff we were talking about, but in a way that is on the ground so that I can keep my back from being out of alignment. And at work, trying to incorporate some of this when I'm sitting for 12 hours or 8 hours or whatever it is. So that's the PT exercises, because they're good fundamental exercises,
Yeah.
like they shouldn't be like limited to just because you have an injury. But yeah. As for our minds, our minds are just as important. Mind is a terrible thing to waste. Shout out to PSAs from back in the day. You last week you said timing is everything, and you wanted to focus on the order of the things that you're doing to make sure that you're like really giving them the time. How did that fare for you, and what are your goals for your brain this week?
Yeah, it's rearranged the order of the exercises I was doing, and I think it really solidified basically what I want to do with the start off with the flies to get the blood pumping into
Mm,
my pecs, or uh, start off with very low low weight squats just to get the activation going, And
Mm.
then I'm switching. Actually, usually I would do something like I would start off with like a hack squat machine or a leg press machine, and I would try to pump it out or as many reps as possible. I'm doing it backwards, where
Right.
I'm going lightweight on the actual squats, and then I'll go heavier on the machines, and I'm gonna see
Mm.
how that turns out.
So you're the order in which you're doing things as to build.
Yeah, so it's
Yeah.
basically very similar to the guy doing the Pilates, where it's like novel
Mm.
stimulus, where it's
Yes.
like my muscles are used to doing it this order. I'm flipping it around, doing the muscles in the different
Mm.
order.
Right. Fantastic. I last week is and that's what you're going to focus on for this week? That's your do you want that to be like cuz let's see how that impacts your did that help you in your mental outlook for when you were going into the gym and coming out of it? Like that helped you kind of like stay focused or did it help calm you? How did that help your brain to do that?
I think it helps me not be as frantic in the gym because especially if you go to a new gym, you're like, oh, what machine should I do? What should I,
Mm,
and you actually, your heart rate is going to go down. You're not going to be as the blood isn't going to be as flowing as much because you're taking more time in between workouts and that kind of thing. So
mm.
it's like now I have a plan, a general idea of
Yeah,
what I want to
yeah.
do.
Interesting. The because it does that being calm is I think such a key element in making good decisions.
Yeah,
Like being able to accurately assess things and not be like that just in the choosing A or B, like presented option A, option B, the first choice you get to make in your brain is to do something or do not.
yeah,
Then you get to choose which one. But that people forget that there's like the first choice is action or inaction. And I think being calm is such a valuable tool there. My mental focus last week was to find a system in which to facilitate the music and the training that what I was trying to do that like try to set up the templates for things which I did not really do well. I could have done better. And we were talking before the show that this show kind of falls into that idea, like that template building, the scheduling, all that stuff it's a defense mechanism from years of progressive adult onset ADHD. I don't know if I had it as a kid, and I can't say, but I have it
yeah.
now,
You
and I'm
probably
being
did.
treated for it now. I probably did, but I can't. As a medical person, as a science-minded person, I was not diagnosed with ADHD as a child. I had behaviors and traits of that, but it was never full. So I can't say I had it as a kid. Someone started calling like they have have type 2 diabetes is like some people started calling they have type 2 ADHD, and I'm just like, damn, that's a good way to put it because that's what it feels like. Because if you didn't know about it as a kid or if it wasn't like talked about or presented as an option,
Yeah,
adult onset ADHD feels type 2 it's like type 2 diabetes. I'm going to focus that'll be a continuing focus, continuing like to facilitate certain workflows gives me the calm that I think that you're like what your goal there you did what I would like to do for other aspects of my life for your workout, changing the order, giving yourself novel stimulus for your muscles and stuff. I would like to carry that into systems that will provide me to change the things that have been holding me back in certain aspects, like practicing music, editing this podcast, of sharing it publicly, engaging more with community, that sort of thing.
nice.
Yeah, I think that the continuing system is that's going to be a forever thing for me with my type 2. So yeah, I like the idea. The systems that build calm instead of take it away from you.
Yeah,
Yeah. Going out into the community, I wanted to play music with other people. That was like a kind of a goal for mine for which I guess was hyper specific to how much I wanted to play music last episode. I did. I've been in UCB classes doing improv again, which is something I really loved, and I met some people, and I was really trying to build that like connections to be able to do stuff in a way that you would a band. And I think I'm going to kind of pivot to that. I'm going to
okay.
try and get like the improv thing going because it really does. It's a lot of fun. I'm not trying to become, like for no other to do this for no other reason than to have fun. I'm going to try and find the improv people in which with the to find a way to continue this group activity that I enjoyed. That was
Yeah.
really fun, what you last week you said you wanted the selective freedom in engagement. Don't exactly remember what that meant.
Yeah, I don't either. I th- I
Oh,
think
I remember what it was.
yeah, I think it
Yeah.
was like determining who or I should or should not talk to.
Yes, it was about like I can choose whether or not to engage to include you in my community.
Yeah, I'm
Like
not sure.
in the certain the personal sense.
I yeah, definitely have been doing that. But I think this week's goal is actually I'm going to expand on that, which is in my carpentry class, uh, a, a revelation or a reinforcement happened, which is I understand why in school we were separated into uh, short bus classes
Right.
and honors classes and stuff. Because in this class, there were a lot of people making some common sense errors.
Mm.
For
Mm.
instance, we were doing some uh, taping compound work and drywall and stuff like that, and there was a screw sticking out, and I went to go get a drill to take this screw out, and people just started putting the compound on top of it, and it's a wall, and I was like,
Yes.
have you guys seen a wall before? Do you know how
What?
there? You ever notice how there's not screws sticking out of it? Uh, and they were putting the tape and the compound on. I was like making mounts. I was like, you know how walls are flat?
Wait, what
Like,
was their reasoning?
I think it was they were just like, hey, we have to get this done, and
Are you kidding?
I
That's
honestly don't know. I can't
crazy.
because it is a common sense thing where
Right.
I'm just like, so my goal going forward is a lot of times in the past couple weeks when I noticed people doing mistakes like that, I would take time and be like, hey man, this is how.
Mm-hmm.
Here's some advice. Let me help you out with that.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, it's like doing all those helping these people. It's like I could be doing things that could be improving my life, that I could be learning new skills, I could be applying these new skills and
Mm.
practicing these new skills, and I'm not doing those things.
Right. Right.
So there's the because we both talk about this, we have the hero complex where we feel we have to help everybody, but I feel it is that thing where
Why
it's like,
would you do anything other than to like be a hero? That's the whole point of Zeros on Heroes. That's the whole point of the yeah. We do suffer that pretty egregiously. Yeah.
so one of the things I have to learn is some people, especially if helping them isn't going to actually help them, is to just let them go and help yourself sometimes, where it's like they're a detriment to my life. So I need to
Right.
make the decision to let them go so I can advance.
Do you feel like to summarize that in a positive way? It's like there is a people will make mistakes with or without your help, right? The acceptance of I feel like yeah, for your own benefit, if you put yourself in the position where the outcome of their behavior impacts your whether or not like that makes me feel bad, it's like oh wait a minute, that feels like you crossed a line where it was a good helpful thing, where it goes from being a behavior to a complex.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I just have hero traits, but now I have a hero complex. Like the idea that you take on that it should don't absorb it, I guess, is what this don't absorb other people's mistakes because they're going to make them whether or not you would have done that.
Yeah. Like I made mistakes, don't get me wrong. I put too much compound underneath one of the pieces of tape and kind of made it lumpy a little bit. And
Yeah.
I was like, oh man, I shouldn't have done that. So I fixed it. But I didn't, you know, compound over a screw. Like what it
Yeah, that's pretty bad. Hero, yeah, you're not getting that's one of those things where even Superman's, you gotta let it go. You gotta, people are just gonna do what they do. So don't not absorbing those mistakes. The idea that
You can't let people drag you down.
don't don't let your behavior become a complex.
Yeah. Yeah.
I like that idea. Don't let your behavior become a don't let your default like it's like, oh, now we've crossed into something that's diagnosable. So that's great. I'm gonna focus you're gonna focus for your body. This is just to recap. Let's see, make an edit point so for the social media later. To recap for our week, our topics are body, mind, and community. Will, your focus is going to be on focusing on these fitness classes and the boxing aspect of things to give your muscles new activities to engage in. I'm going to focus on my PT exercises just to kind of give that fundamental core strength, the highlight for my week, just so that I can use that foundation to build stuff later. But those are good, solid exercises that should be done that I have been neglecting that I'm going to try and correct. For mind, Will, you're going to focus on building systems or working within a system that builds calm, either in fitness or in other aspects. I like that idea a lot. Like letting your pre-planning be just that, a calming influence. I will continue this whole building of systems to increase the work, the things that I look at in my to-do list and take on as a negative, as opposed to a chance to do something positive, right? So I take these systems that I've built to then let systems that will do what enhancing calm, but also will allow me to just incidentally check some stuff off of my lists, incidentally do stuff where it becomes just repeated, a pattern of behavior that I can fall back on, and that would give me calm. I think that's a kind of a point in terms of how all of these benefits we can send that will influence how we interact with the world and go into our community section. Will, you do not want to absorb people's mistakes, because ultimately that's just not going to impact you, and to focus on yourself, and don't let your hero traits of helping people in difficult situations become a negative by making it toxic. I will like to continue the vibes that I was doing for my improv classes in the way that I communicate with the world, and continue to try and find things that are to do with other people that are just fun, whether it be music, comedy, or even just gym partners, people I see at the gym, and making sure that, we build a community of like, hey, what's up? This is fun. We're having fun. Because why not? Why would you do anything else if it's not for fun or better, something that is, or you can find the fun in everything.
I think you just hit the nail on the head right there. Why are you doing something that's not fun?
Why are you doing something that's not fun? And if it's something you have to do, find the fun in the thing. There's fun everywhere. Go find it. The more you know, boom, bing, freeze frame. Great episode, Will. Thank you so much. Is there anything you'd like to add to our closing section?
Be kind, rewind.
Be kind, rewind. Ooh, that's something that might be archaic. That might have been like a little pop culture archaeology. Give us a shout out if you stuck around to the end of the episode. If you please comment if you remember what Be Kind Rewind is a reference to, and also that does feel like kind of a universal. If you're kind, you can rewind in your life to the memories and never cringe at you being mean, because you were always kind. That's boom, spin it around. You set it up, I knock him down. Improv class, baby. Thank you everybody for watching. You can follow us at Zeros on Heroes on the social media platforms. They're in the links in the description, I believe. If you're seeing clips of this somewhere, subscribe and join us in the chat. You can join us, like You Still Wear Tidy Whities, Luis XO99, Lena Color Queen, Sammy Baby, who helped us do this earlier, Lena too, and also the other spam bots that are joining us, because that's what the internet is, baby. A series of robots trying to get other robots to convince you to buy things from other robots. You can follow me at Mike Mercadal. You can follow Will at William A. Watkins. Those are our social media platforms. If you have questions, comments, or just want to brag about some cool stuff you did in the gym, something that helped you rethink your fitness journey, send us an email at zerosonheroes@gmail.com. And, we just want to focus on how are you improving your life and in what unexpected and surprising ways has it improved other areas of your life or the lives around you? That's all good stuff to have in your mind as you go throughout the world, because it provides you with a more positive mental outlook going forward. And you build more good, more good, more good, more good. That's the goal. Layers of good until you got a little onion.
Like a lasagna.
Lasagna is, yes. An onion is just layers of onion, but a lasagna is layers of a lot of different things that taste delicious.
Lasagna, cake.
Good layer cake, yes. You know what? It would do like a layered, like a tres leches, which has 3 different milks in it, milks in different forms. I'm all for that. Gotta love a good layered tiramisu. What these?
Ooh.
I'm telling
a
you,
trifle. Ooh.
You gotta be layered in this life. It wouldn't be this show if we didn't talk about food that would that we love. But yeah. And again, thank you everybody for joining us. You can follow, Will, is there anything else you'd like to promote before you go? Your future woodworking business maybe, or?
I will never do a business. I am not a.
That's fine. Screw business, like whatever.
No,
I would like, yeah. Just that. If you're following me, if you followed me from the What's Up Bro podcast link where we shared this today, you can check out the What's Up Bro podcast. It's me and comedian Nary Signs, who's very funny. You can follow him at Nary Signs on all his social media, but you can go Woo Bro Pod. We do that show as well. It's a pop culture podcast with a strong Miami flavor, because that's where we're from, and that's where
I believe that's called Moho.
Moho is strong Miami flavor.
Moho Woobro.
Moho Woobro. You can follow that. Just follow me and you can get all those links as well. And hey, Will, you're looking pretty good.
I'm just trying to look like you, bro.
Just trying to look like you. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Remember to go out and be